Vincent was scrolling through his phone again. It was barely 8 in the morning, and the clink of his spoon against the cereal bowl had stopped. He sat there, hunched over the screen, thumb frozen mid-scroll. Then, a blink, and his face shifted. Whatever he saw, he deleted. I watched his fingers press down with too much intent, then flicked back to his casual smile like nothing had happened. "Fishing weekend with the family," he said, not even looking at me as he grabbed the coffee pot. "You know how it goes. Same boring crowd, same old stories." I tried to sound light. "I mean, I haven't seen them in months. Maybe I'll come with." He froze, just a second too long, before setting his mug down. "Babe, no offense, but you'd lose your mind. You remember my cousin Tyler, right? Still lives in that moldy trailer with the Confederate flag. And Aunt Jan's chili gives people nightmares. Literally." I laughed weakly, but it didn't land. "That bad, huh? You'd hate it," he said, grinning as he reached for a banana. "Besides, we'll be waking up at 4 to go stand in a boat with mosquitoes. I'll owe you a real weekend after this one." He kissed my forehead and walked out, his bag already packed near the door. It wasn't even zipped. He'd always been charming, that wasn't new. But this new version of Vincent, it had an edge. Not sharp, not obvious. More like something dull but heavy pressing into my chest. He smiled too much when he lied. I'd seen it before, when we were still dating and he fibbed about staying late at the office. His charm had a pattern. The thing was, I never quite fit in with his family. They weren't mean, just distant, polite, cordial. His mother called me dear, in a way that made me feel like I was wearing someone else's clothes. They smiled through me, not at me. Holidays were a blur of paper plates, football on TV, and conversations I was never part of. Still, I brushed off the discomfort. We'd had a rocky spring, work stress, barely seeing each other. And maybe this was just what he needed. A reset with his folks. A couple days of muddy boots and beer in coolers. No harm in that. So when I told him I'd just make plans with Liv and Jada for the weekend instead, he gave me this breezy smile, like I'd just solved his problem for him. "Perfect," he said, already sliding his phone back in his pocket. "You deserve a break too." The way he said it, fast, too ready, made my skin prickle. Still, I said yes. I made the call to Liv that afternoon, and we booked a cozy Airbnb up in the mountains, just the three of us. I forced a smile when I told them I couldn't join the fishing trip, and Liv rolled her eyes in that, "Girl, you're not missing anything" kind of way. We laughed about it, poured some wine, started a group chat to plan. I told myself it was fine. But that hollow feeling in my chest? It stayed. Vincent left earlier than I expected. I came out of the bathroom, still towel drying my hair, and the front door was already shut. No goodbye kiss, no playful "don't miss me too much." Just silence. I found a note folded neatly on the counter. "Didn't want to wake you. Early start. Love you." That was it. I stood there for a while, still in my robe, staring at the handwriting. It wasn't that it was cold. Vincent could always fake warmth. But the words felt stiff, like something copied from a template, like he wasn't talking to me. I wanted to shake it off. I really did. But that creeping sense of wrongness clung to me like humidity. Still, I went through the motions, packed my duffel, charged my headphones, texted Liv and Jada a smiley face and a countdown clock emoji. But underneath the small talk, my stomach was a tight knot. At one point, I walked into the bedroom to double-check if Vincent had taken his hiking boots. I don't know why I did it, just instinct. I pulled open his side of the closet and spotted the boots still sitting there, untouched. I frowned. Fishing. Mud, bugs. No boots? I shook my head. Maybe he packed a different pair. Maybe I was spiraling. Then I remembered something. I had written a note the night before, just a little thing, something cheesy I knew he'd roll his eyes at, but secretly like. I had folded it up and slipped it into the side pocket of his duffel while he was showering. It said, "Whatever lake you're on, whatever fish you don't catch, I'll be here waiting. Love you always." I had even doodled a little fish with hearts around it. Dumb, I know. But that's the kind of thing we used to do. That used to be us. I wanted him to find it later, maybe smile, maybe text me something sappy. Instead now, that note felt like a sharp contrast. Like I had handed out a piece of my heart to someone who had already started walking away. I zipped up my bag and carried it to the car, trying not to overthink. Maybe we were just off. Maybe I needed this weekend as much as he did. The drive to the mountains helped. A little. I let the windows down, blasted music too loud, and focused on the road. Summer wildflowers blurred past. The sunlight flickered through the trees, strobing across the dashboard. For a moment, I let myself believe it was just nerves. Just normal, healthy anxiety about being apart for a few days. I mean, couples do that. They take solo weekends. It doesn't always mean something's wrong, but as I climbed higher into the hills, the signal on my phone dropped out. And a little part of me panicked. It was stupid. What did I expect that he'd text me right away? But the silence grew heavier with every mile. I tried not to think about the way he avoided eye contact yesterday. The way his hands trembled when I asked about the trip. The way his whole body seemed coiled tight, like a man trying very hard not to be caught. When I pulled up to the cabin, Liv and Jada were already there, waving at me from the porch with mugs in hand. The scent of pine hit me as I stepped out. The sky stretched wide and clean above us. "You look like you just drove through a war zone," Jada teased, taking my bag. I laughed, a little too hard. "Just a long drive," I said. "I'm fine," but I wasn't, because the man I loved was somewhere I couldn't picture, doing something I didn't understand. And no amount of pine-scented air or best friend wine nights was going to fix the feeling growing in my gut. Still, I smiled. I poured a drink. I unpacked my sweaters and snacks like everything was fine. And I told myself again, maybe it is. Maybe it really is. That night, after a long afternoon of wine, snacks, and catching up with Liv and Jada, we curled up by the fireplace like old times. The kind of weekend we used to dream about back when all three of us were juggling new jobs and dating disasters. We'd skied earlier that day, nothing too intense, mostly bunny slopes and exaggerated wipeouts. And now our muscles were sore in the good way. I took a selfie by the fire, cheeks flushed, hair a mess, and posted it with a lazy caption, "Girls fish." The three of us laughed over it. Liv leaned into me and grinned. "You know, if Vincent sees that, he's gonna pretend to be jealous." I shrugged. "Let him. He's probably too busy trying not to get eaten alive by mosquitoes." We were halfway through a bottle of rosé when Jada pulled out her phone and started showing us old vacation photos. College trips, random beach days, nights we swore we'd never forget but mostly did. I opened Instagram again, not even thinking, just scrolling through the feed while they chatted. And then I saw it. A photo tagged with Vincent's family name. The account belonged to his Aunt Donna. She was one of those Facebook-turned-Instagram boomers who overshared everything. The photo was glossy, bright, obviously taken by a professional. A yacht, not a lake, not a dingy little fishing boat. A massive, gleaming white yacht decorated in string lights and silver balloons. And there, in the center of the photo, stood Vincent, hairstyled, wearing a navy suit and a champagne flute in hand. He was smiling, mid-toast. A woman in a long gown, his sister-in-law, beamed up at him from the side. The caption read, "Celebrating love and family tonight. Congrats to Darren and Becca on your engagement. Engagement party, talk family first." My heart dropped. I blinked, reread the caption, then tapped the account. More photos, a whole grid full of them. There was Vincent again, standing beside his brother Darren, both of them raising glasses. Vincent posing next to his mom. The same mom who never made eye contact with me unless she had to. A group shot of the entire extended family, dressed to the nines, smiling under the yacht's deck lights. I recognized the backdrop. They'd rented the Bell Marina in Newport. Not exactly a rustic weekend. I clicked through faster now, fingers shaking, one after another, image after image, all of them time-stamped within the last few hours. I had asked to come. I had offered. And he looked me in the eye and told me it was just a boring family thing with too many bugs and not enough bathrooms. This was no accident. This wasn't miscommunication. He lied. And not just to keep me out of something dull. He lied to exclude me from something important. A moment, a memory, a celebration. I stared at the photos again. The wine in my stomach turned sour. He didn't look awkward or tense. He looked comfortable, happy, like someone who belonged. And I didn't. I didn't belong in those photos. I didn't even belong in the conversation. I opened my text thread with him. There were no new messages, no miss you, no check-ins, just the note he left on the counter. My thumbs hovered above the keyboard. Before I could type, my phone buzzed. A message from Vincent. For a second, I felt hope spark. Maybe he'd seen the post. Maybe he was finally going to say something. But the message was short, dismissive. Can't talk, that was it. No punctuation, no explanation. I read it over and over, trying to decide if it felt colder the second time. It did. Are you okay? Liv asked, noticing I'd gone quiet. I looked up. My mouth opened, then closed again. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to make words for what I was feeling. I swallowed hard. I think he lied to me. Jada leaned in. What do you mean? I turned the phone around and showed them. The yacht. The toast. Vincent, grinning like everything in his life was picture perfect. No room for the woman he shared a mortgage with. Liv let out a low whistle. That's not a fishing trip. Jada said nothing at first. She just set her wine glass down slowly and rubbed her temples. Did you know about this party? No, I whispered. We sat in silence for a while. I felt the pressure build in my chest. This strange, bitter mixture of shame and disbelief. I had written him a note, for God's sake. I had tucked it into his bag like some doting wife in a Hallmark movie, all while he was zipping up a suit and heading off to be part of a family that never wanted me there. I don't get it, I said quietly. Why lie? Why not just tell me? Liv's voice was soft. Because then he'd have to admit you weren't welcome. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, staring at my phone, watching the likes rack up under that perfect picture. His arm around his mother, a flute in hand, a future without me in it. And that message, can't talk, echoed louder than anything he could have said. Something in me cracked. Not a clean break, a hairline fracture. But I knew, deep down, it wouldn't be the last. I didn't say much the rest of the night. Liv and Jada kept glancing at me, waiting for the meltdown that never came. I just nodded, smiled when they spoke, and stared out the big windows of the lodge, where the snow had started falling in soft, quiet sheets. Sometime after midnight, once we were all supposedly asleep, I slipped out of the room and found the restroom down the hall. I didn't need to go. I just needed to breathe somewhere no one could see me. The lights were bright and unforgiving. I leaned over the sink, staring at my reflection. My eyes looked hollow, my face blotchy. I didn't recognize the woman looking back. I gripped the edge of the counter and forced myself to stay quiet. I didn't want to cry in that small, echoey room. I didn't want anyone to hear me fall apart. But it hit me like a wave, sudden and mean. He didn't want me there, not just Vincent, his whole family. They threw a party, a beautiful, glittering, champagne-drenched night, and never even considered me. I wasn't forgotten. I was deliberately left out. I thought about the note I'd left in his bag, about the way I had second-guessed myself for days, wondering if I was just imagining things, the way I always made excuses for his mother's passive-aggressive comments, the way I brushed off his brother, never remembering my name, the way every holiday felt like I was standing just outside the house, peeking through the window. It had been like that for years. They were civil, always civil, but never warm, never real. And I let it happen. I stood there in the restroom, tears finally sliding down without permission, and felt this dull ache spread through my chest. It wasn't just about the lie. It was about everything leading up to it. The erosion of trust, the shrinking of space, the slow, almost invisible way I'd been pushed out of their circle, even while living inside Vincent's life. All that pretending, all that silence, it had cost me more than I realized. When I finally pulled myself together, I looked in the mirror and said it out loud. You let them do this. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't self-blame. It was just true. I let Vincent set the rules. I let his family treat me like an outsider. I laughed off the slights. I smiled through the awkward holidays. I told myself it didn't matter, but now it did. When I came back to the room, Liv was still awake. She didn't ask where I'd been, just reached out and gently touched my arm. Want to go skiing tomorrow? She asked softly. Just us. I nodded. Yeah, I think I need that. And I did. Not for the fun of it, not for the selfies or the mountain air, but because I needed to do something. I needed to feel the burn in my legs, the sharp cold in my lungs. I needed to move. The next morning, I strapped into my skis like a woman possessed. I wasn't graceful, I wasn't smiling, but I pushed myself down those slopes harder than I ever had, carving into the snow like it could absorb my pain. Every turn was a way to outrun the embarrassment. Every fall was a distraction from the sharp sting in my chest. I skied until I couldn't feel my thighs, until my hands went numb from gripping the poles too tight. At one point, Liv caught up with me at the bottom of a hill. She was breathless, red-cheeked, and a little worried. "You're pushing too hard," she said. I shrugged. "I just need to be tired." She didn't argue. That night, we barely talked. I lay in bed with my legs sore and my heart heavier than ever. I scrolled through Instagram again, almost without meaning to, and found another picture. This one of Vincent and his brother, arms around each other, smiling so wide. The caption read, "Wouldn't be the same without you, big bro." That's when I finally let myself cry. Not just a few quiet tears, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep, the kind that tastes bitter. I buried my face in the pillow and cried for every time I made myself small, for every time I waited for someone to choose me, for every word I didn't say. And when I finally ran out of tears, when my chest stopped heaving and my head was pounding, I felt something new under the grief. Not rage, clarity. I wasn't going to collapse. Not over this. Not for him. If he didn't want me at the party, fine. But I would not be erased. Not quietly, not this time. And I sure as hell wasn't going to wait around for a man who celebrated without me while pretending to love me with me. Tomorrow, I'd figure out what came next. But tonight, I was surviving. And that was enough. The morning after my breakdown, I woke up sore, emotionally fried, and bone-tired. But oddly calm. I didn't say much during breakfast. Liv and Jada let me be, only offering the occasional squeeze of the shoulder or refill of coffee. I think they could tell something in me had shifted. Later, we headed back out to the slopes, and the sun was so bright against the snow it almost hurt to look at. I took a photo from the top of the run. The mountains in the distance looked soft and untouched, quiet, peaceful. The kind of view people repost 100 times with hashtags like blessed and perspective. But that's not what I wrote. I captioned it. Some peaks are warmer than families. I didn't plan to post it for drama. I didn't even think that hard about the words. It was just true, and it felt like the first honest thing I'd shared in weeks. I hit post and slipped the phone into my coat pocket. It took less than an hour. By the time we stopped for lunch, my notifications were out of control. Instagram, texts, group chats I hadn't touched in months. A few likes at first, then comments, then DMs. Jada glanced at my screen as I scrolled. Maya? What did you do?" I blinked. "I posted a photo." Liv leaned over. "The caption," I showed them. Jada let out a low whistle. "Oh, damn." At first, it was mostly friends reacting. Some messaged to say they were proud of me. Some asked if everything was okay. One coworker, someone I barely knew outside of meetings, replied, "This hit me harder than I want to admit." Then it picked up speed. A friend of a friend reposted it with a long caption about being excluded from her own sibling's wedding. Another woman replied with a crying emoji and wrote, "Needed this today. Thank you by mid-afternoon." Even people I hadn't spoken to in years were popping into my inbox. "Are you okay? Was that about Vincent? I always wondered if something was off with him. You were too good for that family anyway." The weirdest part? No one asked for details. They didn't need to. The caption told them everything without naming names. It struck a chord, especially with women who had been pushed to the side, passed over, made to feel like they were only good enough when convenient. But not everyone was supportive. Around 5 p.m., I got the first DM from Vincent's cousin. "Wow, way to make this about you. Darren's engagement has nothing to do with whatever drama you're cooking up." I didn't respond. Then another came in, this one from his sister, Becca's soon-to-be sister-in-law. "Real mature, Maya. This is why you weren't invited. We don't need your negativity." I almost laughed. They still didn't get it. They really thought this was about not being invited to a party. It was about being erased. By sunset, Vincent texted me. "Vincent, What the hell are you doing, Vincent? Why would you post that, Vincent? You're embarrassing yourself. No, are you okay? No, I'm sorry, just panic. I didn't reply right away. I didn't feel like explaining something he already knew. Then another message. Vincent. My family is furious. You made a scene. You're turning this into something public. I stared at the screen for a long time. Made a scene. That was what mattered to him. Not the lie, not the exclusion, not how much it hurt me. Just that people knew. I finally typed back, slowly, without rage. Me. You're angry that I told the truth, not that you lied. He didn't reply. Instead, his mother called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice sharp, condescending, even in its fake sweetness. Maya, I know things are sensitive right now, but airing private matters online is not the way to handle mature relationships. You're smarter than that. Smarter. That word stung. For years, she used it as a weapon. To say I should have known better. That her coldness was somehow a reflection of my own failure to fit in. I deleted the voicemail. By bedtime, I had nearly 200 comments and over 50 DMs. I muted most of the notifications, but not before one message caught my eye. It was from a woman I didn't recognize. Thank you for saying what so many of us feel. I thought I was the only one who felt invisible in someone else's family. That one made me cry. Just for a second. Quiet, grateful tears. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I didn't out Vincent. I didn't name names. But the ripple of what I wrote, the honesty of it, was enough. He had tried to erase me quietly, but I showed up anyway. Not to their party, not to their circle, to the world, to myself. And no matter what came next, I wasn't going to disappear again. I came home a day early, not because I missed him, not even because I wanted a confrontation, but because something in me, something sharp and unsettled, wouldn't let me sit still in that cozy cabin another minute. I needed to look him in the eye. I needed to see how he'd respond when he didn't have the shield of silence and distance. It was late afternoon when I pulled into the driveway. His car was there. The porch light was on. Even though the sun hadn't fully dipped, I expected quiet. Instead, I stepped into the sound of music coming from the kitchen. One of those indie acoustic playlists he always turned on when he was trying to seem relaxed. That fake calm before a hard conversation. He was home, and still wearing the same crisp blue dress shirt from the yacht photos. I stood in the doorway for a second, taking in the scene. The dining table was cluttered with empty glasses, a gift bag, and a half-eaten box of gourmet chocolate. On the counter was a bottle of wine, unopened. He heard the door close behind me and turned, startled. His jaw tightened. Maya, he said too quickly. You're home early. I dropped my bag by the door. So are you. He blinked. I meant to clean up before you got back. That's what you're worried about? I asked, stepping into the room. The dishes. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I didn't bother with small talk. I didn't ask how the party was or how the fish were biting. You lied, I said quietly. He looked down, ran a hand through his hair. Maya, I was going to tell you. When? My voice cracked. Before or after the photos hit Instagram? He didn't answer. I walked to the kitchen island and picked up one of the empty glasses. You told me it was a fishing weekend with your family. You told me it was boring. You said I wouldn't enjoy it. It was complicated, he said, his voice low. It wasn't my call. I turned to face him fully. Then whose call was it? He hesitated just a little too long. My mother, he finally said. She wanted it to be a certain atmosphere. I let out a bitter laugh. Right, because I ruined the atmosphere. That's not what I said. No, but it's what you let happen, I snapped. She didn't want me there, and you didn't fight her on it. You didn't even tell me the truth. You just erased me. He moved closer, hands up like that would make a difference. Maya, you know how she is. I didn't want to cause a scene. And what am I then? I asked, shaking my head. Not causing a scene, just disappearing to make things easier? He flinched, but didn't step back. Did you even try to include me? I asked, voice shaking now. Did you say one word when she decided I didn't belong? Silence. I stared at him, waiting. He looked down again, and that was all I needed. I walked past him, straight into the bedroom, and started pulling clothes from drawers. Maya, come on, he said, following me. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything you didn't already do, I replied. You made the choice. I'm just living in it now. He stood there, helpless, as I zipped up a suitcase. I didn't pack everything, just enough to get me out. I'd come back for the rest later when I didn't feel like screaming. I didn't think it would blow up like this, he muttered. Because you thought I'd stay quiet, I said flatly. You thought I'd keep swallowing it. The lies, the exclusion. The silence. He looked up, eyes pleading. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was just a weekend. No, I said. It wasn't. I paused at the door, suitcase in hand. I loved you, I said. And you couldn't even say my name in front of your family. That's not just a weekend, Vincent. That's everything. He didn't try to stop me. He just stood there, still in his party clothes, watching as I walked out. No apologies, no truth, just silence, the only thing he'd ever been consistent with. And as I pulled the door shut behind me, I realized that silence was my answer all along. I stayed with Liv. She had a guest room that smelled faintly like lavender and laundry sheets, and she didn't ask me for anything but honesty. I didn't cry much that first night. I think I'd used up most of my tears in the mountains, in the lodge restroom, in the quiet moments between skiing and checking my phone. But by the second morning, I could feel the weight of everything pressing into my bones. Not just the lie, not just Vincent, but the years of shrinking myself to fit into a family that only ever saw me as an accessory to him. I opened my laptop that day, not to doom scroll or disappear into someone else's curated life, but to write. I didn't write about the yacht or the lie or even the social media fallout. I wrote about the feeling of being almost included, the kind of half-acceptance that feels polite to your face and cold behind your back, about the way women are often expected to be graceful when they're excluded, as if silence is the most dignified way to be erased. I clicked post on my blog without expecting much. I hadn't updated it in over a year. It was just a space I used to keep for myself. Thoughts, reflections, nothing serious. But something happened. By that night, the post had been shared over 1,000 times. By the end of the week, I had emails from strangers, most of them women, thanking me, telling me that they felt seen. One woman wrote, "Your story isn't mine, but it could have been." Another said, "I've been married for 12 years and have never once felt welcome in his family's group texts." I cried reading this. Then came the emails from companies, a publishing house, a media brand that focused on modern women's voices, a boutique marketing firm in Chicago that wanted to hire me as a consultant for authenticity campaigns. Liv walked into the room while I was reading the third email. "You okay?" she asked, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "I think." I blinked, staring at the screen. "I think people actually get it." She set the mug down and leaned over my shoulder. "Number. They feel it. That's different." I didn't know what to say. For years, I had quietly worried that I was too sensitive, too needy, too unwilling to just go with the flow when things felt wrong. But now, people were telling me the exact opposite, that my words had given them a voice they didn't know how to use. Meanwhile, Vincent's family went silent. Or rather, they tried to control the damage from the shadows. I received an email from his mother 3 days after I moved out. It was 3 paragraphs long and exactly as backhanded as I expected. "Maya, I'm sorry to hear things have taken a turn. It saddens me that you've chosen to respond to private matters in such a public way. I do hope in time you'll reflect on the role you played in remaining so disengaged from our family." No apology, no acknowledgement of the lie, just a carefully dressed insult in a cardigan sweater tone. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my journal, the one I hadn't touched in months, and wrote down every small thing I'd ignored over the years. The time his mother introduced me at a family dinner as Vincent's friend. The Thanksgiving when there was no seat for me, so I stood holding a plate by the counter. The group photo at his cousin's wedding where they waved me aside. Just family in this one. The way Vincent never stepped in, never said anything, never asked why I always looked like an outsider in every photo of his life. I wrote until my hand cramped. And when I was done, I didn't feel bitter. I felt lighter, like I'd finally said it out loud, even if just to myself. Liv sat with me that night, legs curled under her, a glass of wine in hand. "You're not going back, are you?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "No." You don't sound sad about it. I'm not, I said. And it was true. There was grief, sure. Of course there was. But there was also something else blooming in the cracks of it, a strange, unexpected clarity, a strength I didn't know I had. I had thought for so long that love meant fitting into someone else's world. Now I was starting to imagine a world that was built on my terms, one where I didn't need to earn approval, one where I didn't have to be anyone's version of palatable. I wasn't running anymore. I was rebuilding. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Liv was at work, and I was in the kitchen answering emails, half distracted, when the buzzer rang. I figured it was a delivery. I'd been ordering too many takeout meals and maybe one too many self-care candles. But when I opened the door, there he was, Vincent. Hair still styled the way I used to like it, wearing that soft gray sweater I gave him for our 3rd anniversary, the one he always said felt like wearing a cloud. His hands were shoved deep into his coat pockets, and his eyes, they looked tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from something heavier, like regret. I didn't move. Can we talk? He asked quietly. I stepped aside without a word, not because I owed him that, just because I wanted it over. He followed me into the kitchen, eyes scanning the small space like it held a landmine. I've been trying to figure out what to say, he began, his voice soft. I messed up, I know that. I waited. I shouldn't have lied to you, he went on. I should have told you the truth. I should have stood up to my mom. I didn't know how. You didn't know how to tell me I wasn't welcome, I asked, arms crossed. He flinched. I didn't want to hurt you. You did anyway. He nodded slowly, looking down. I know. There was silence, the kind that felt like it filled every corner of the room. I just thought, maybe we could fix this, he said. I want to fix it. I want us back. I almost laughed. You mean now? After the lies? After your mom sent me an email blaming me for being disengaged? His head shot up. She said what? Does it matter? I said. It's who she is. The bigger question is, when has she not made me feel like an outsider? And when have you ever defended me? He didn't answer. That silence, that same old silence, settled between us again, like always. You let them pretend I didn't exist, I said, and then you got mad when I finally told the truth. I wasn't mad about the truth, he said quickly. I was just shocked. Everyone saw it. I wanted them to see it, I said. You had a party without me. You dressed up and gave a toast like we didn't share a life. I was invisible, Vincent. His face fell. I never meant to make you feel that way. You didn't make me feel that way, I said. You made that real. He swallowed hard. Please, just let me make it right. We've been through so much. I took a step back, keeping my voice calm. You didn't make a mistake, I said. You made a choice, repeatedly, and now I'm making mine. Maya, please. I shook my head. No. He looked at me like he didn't quite believe this was happening, like he had assumed that if he just showed up, I'd melt, that our history would be enough. But it wasn't. Do you still love me? He asked suddenly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and maybe I did, in some small, fading, quiet way. But love without safety, without respect, without truth. It wasn't the kind of love I could keep carrying. I don't know, I said, but I know I love myself more now. He stared at the floor. I wish I could go back. So do I whispered. But we're here. He nodded, eyes wet now, and stepped toward the door. He didn't say goodbye, just opened it and left. I waited for the sound of his footsteps to fade down the hallway before closing it behind him. That night, I checked my email again. Another message from his mother had come in. It was short this time. We all make mistakes. You're not perfect either, Maya. Maybe next time, try being a better fit. I stared at the screen. No anger rose up this time. No need to reply. I clicked archive. Then I opened a travel site. I booked a cabin back in the mountains for the following weekend. The same place, same view. But this time, it would be just me. No note in anyone's bag. No waiting for permission to be seen. Just peace. On my terms. The mountain was exactly as I remembered it. Bright, wide, quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't press down on you but wrapped around you like a blanket. The air was thinner up here, sharper. I felt every breath in my lungs, every muscle in my legs. Every heartbeat like a reminder that I was here and I was whole. I didn't rush this time. No frantic skiing to distract myself. No endless scrolling or searching for validation. I took the lift alone, sat in silence, watching the trees thin as we climbed higher. No one beside me, no pressure to talk. When I reached the top, I stepped off and turned toward the overlook, the same one where I had taken that now famous photo, the one with the caption that started it all. Some peaks are warmer than families. Funny, I didn't feel the need to take another photo this time. I walked to the edge and looked out over the valley below. The world was a patchwork of white and gray and evergreen. Small cabins dotted the base of the slope, smoke curling up from chimneys. The sky was soft, low clouds moving slowly like they had nowhere urgent to be. Neither did I. I stood there for a long time. I thought about Vincent, about the way he looked at me in Liv's kitchen, like a man trying to hold on to something he never valued until it slipped through his fingers. I thought about his silence, his mother's emails, the years of smiling through cold dinners and family photos I wasn't asked to be in. And then I thought about everything I'd found since I walked away. The women who reached out, the work opportunities that came out of nowhere, the freedom of sleeping in a bed that didn't carry the weight of unspoken disappointment. I closed my eyes and whispered something, not for anyone else to hear, just for me. I forgive you. It wasn't for him. It wasn't even for them. It was for me, for every time I silenced myself. For every moment I tried to belong somewhere I never truly fit. For staying too long, hoping things would change. I forgave the version of me who kept waiting. I let her go. And with her went the need to prove anything, the need to explain myself, the ache of invisibility. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just breathed in and out and felt a kind of peace that didn't scream. It just was. After a while, I turned away from the edge. I didn't take a picture. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. There was nothing to prove anymore, no one to convince, no story to clean up for someone else's comfort. As I started my slow descent down the trail, I felt lighter, not fixed, not perfect, but real, and for the first time in years, that was enough.